Are you considering getting a puppy? Today's episode is one that you will not want to miss. We are breaking down the top 10 reasons that might change your mind and keep you from getting the puppy. And we're also talking about some of the colossal mistakes that surround those reasons and how you can flip the script, make things work for you instead of against you, and end up with that puppy in the long run. That's what we're talking about today on the McCann Dogs podcast. Welcome back. Hey, Swanee.
Yeah, Shannon?
How'd you sleep last night?
Actually, pretty good. Thank you.
Yeah.
How about you?
I did pretty well as well, but I'll think back to this time about 10 months ago, and I wasn't sleeping quite as well. You know why?
Why was that?
Because I had a puppy in the house.
Oh.
I bet you could have guessed I was going to say that. Eh?
Yes.
You did a good job playing along.
Nothing disrupts your sleep more than a brand new puppy.
It's true. Absolutely. And that is to be expected when bringing home a new puppy. And that's what we're talking about today. We're going to break down some of the hardships of bringing home a puppy because I think that a lot of people get into it expecting it to be something that it is completely the opposite of. So we're getting a lot of people signing up for classes who are surprised by some of the negative aspects of a puppy. And it confuses me actually that people aren't expecting these things because I feel like this is a fairly new development in dogs.
Right, yes.
I feel like 10, 15 years ago, it was expected. Mm-hmm. You know, people had the same complaints, certainly, but they weren't surprised by those complaints.
Yes. I think too, a lot of it is social media. We see so many videos of people bringing home a brand new puppy, and of course, social media only shows the best.
You're right.
They don't show you scrubbing poo off the puppy at 3 a.m. in the morning.
That wouldn't make a very good video at all. That's not going viral.
No. They show you sitting snuggling with the puppy or the puppy fast asleep. But in reality, there's good and bad when you bring home a puppy, and the bad can be bad. It's
absolutely.
very disrupting. It turns your life upside down.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are not prepared and you make mistakes during that period, it can make your time with your new puppy so much more difficult than it needs to be. So today we are breaking down some of the reasons not to get a puppy.
Yes.
And, truly I would always want to have a puppy in my life, even with all the hardships.
Right.
But I know that I can get to that point. I absolutely know. So for me, I expect there to be some frustrations. I expect there to be some hardships, but I know that it's worth it in the end.
Exactly.
And I always say, if you can get through the negatives in any situation, you're golden, because the positives are easy, right? Like, who doesn't love playing with a fun puppy? Who doesn't love snuggling with a sweet puppy? Who doesn't love puppy breath? Who doesn't love getting to know their puppy and, teaching them tricks and all sorts of things? All those things are a joy.
They are.
They're a piece of cake.
Yes.
Right? It's not the joys that are going to derail you. It is the hardships that are going to derail you. So I actually wrote an article long time ago now. Long time ago. Sometime within my 25 years.
It was at least last week.
And it is called The Top 10 Reasons Not to Get a Puppy. And I think that we need to revisit that article and talk about those top 10 reasons and any other reasons that might come up as well, because expect a puppy to disrupt your life. Right?
Yes. I like to think of it as puppies are not children at all. They're
they're
two
not.
very different entities. But
they learn differently. They act differently. Right. Their instincts are very different.
Very different. But I remember when growing up with having puppies often, I'm very used to what puppies bring and the changes. But when I had a newborn baby, when my son was born, it really threw me for a loop.
Oh, because it didn't have any hair. It was a skin baby.
Right, yes. But I remember thinking, wow, think about when a newborn comes home, the disruptions and how it changes your life. Expect the puppy is going to be similar. There's going to be a lot of disruptions and a lot of changes.
Yeah.
You don't get to sleep in anymore.
Nope.
You don't get to go to the bathroom by yourself anymore. Someone's always got their eyes on you. You're going to be standing outside in the middle of the night with this new puppy. Your new puppy's going to bite you.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's all kinds of disruptions that are going to happen.
Yeah. And first off, those are normal disruptions. We expect, see, I would never think, okay, so-and-so, I've never brought home a human baby myself, but okay, so-and-so is coming home with their human baby. Life's just going to be a cakewalk, right? But for some reason, we kind of kind of put the struggles with a puppy aside.
Right.
I don't know why that is, because
don't know.
it is a very good parallel to draw.
Right.
I think
Right.
that's a good one for sure. I mean, and a lot of the times too, I find that after bringing home a puppy the first couple of days, there's almost a little bit of a depression. And I certainly don't want to compare it to a postpartum depression,
but
because that is a much more serious
like calling
thing.
it the puppy blues.
But yeah, you know what? That's a really good way to put it. And it's just that realization that things have changed and things are no longer going to be easy for a short period of
Right.
time. I mean, with human babies, it's probably 16 years before you get any sort of relief. But with puppies, if you do your homework, if you put in a little bit of time, if you put in a little bit of effort to teach them, and if you don't make some of the colossal mistakes that are going to make your life more difficult, it's going to pass fairly quickly.
It does. Yeah, that's one thing nice about puppies is they do grow up quick.
Absolutely. Levon is coming up on a year. Next month, he is going to be a year old, which is mind-boggling.
It just
I
seems
can't
like
believe how
last
fast
week
it
we were
happens.
sitting here and you were telling the story of
Yeah.
how you brought him home.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I brought him home in May of last year, and now we are headed into March of this year. How about that? And it's a total joy at this point.
Right.
Like, he's got solid foundation, great basics, you know, other than heading into adolescence and having a few teenage moments here and there, which I'm expecting because I'm a realist and I've done this before, so I know what's coming. You know, other than that, he's added so much to my life.
Right.
Like, I could never imagine taking him out of my life.
Right.
Like, he's Levon.
there.
He's
Yes.
my dog. He's,
Right.
you know, like, and he loves me.
Right.
Like, he's at the point now where he's got more freedom in the house, but he is never anywhere but right with me.
Right.
You know, like, even when I'm working, he'll be curled up at my feet. Like, if you do the right things with your dogs and you teach them what they need to do and you set the tone, and you do that right from the get-go, you are going to end up with a lovely situation where your
Right.
dogs understand the rules of the house. They take their cues from you. You know, I was actually quite sick last week, and I could not believe how good this puppy was. Like,
Right.
truly, for an 11-month-old dog, he did not in any way put me out when I was sick, and I was floored by that.
That is
Other than
so
the
good,
fact that, you
yes.
know, he had some needs that I needed to fill, and I didn't have the energy, and luckily my partner was able to help a bit with some of
Right.
those things. But besides that, he really just curled up with me and slept the whole time, and
Right.
Ned was curled up and sleeping with me, and, you know, we all just pretty much slept for a week.
Right.
It was great. It was great. I woke up, I was like, father
So
time.
you're refreshed.
Yeah, I've had to
you're-
shave my face again. I had this long beard that grew. So, yeah. So, I mean, it's short-lived, much shorter-lived than a
Right.
human baby.
But it is intense.
Yes.
When you're going through it, it does feel intense.
It does, because
Yes.
anything that disrupts your routine is jarring to our nervous
It is.
systems,
It
right?
is. We find comfort in our routines.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
And the expectation of what's going to happen, what we know is going to happen, what happened yesterday. And even though we're not guaranteed the same results as what happened yesterday, it feels that way when
Right.
we're in
Yes.
routine. So it's good. And the puppies just disrupt that routine.
They do.
So.
So when watching puppy videos, take them with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Because they're not showing the bad that will happen
yeah,
too.
that's it.
And it's not bad. It's just that's what puppies are. They're
Yes.
little animals you've brought into your house.
Yep,
And there's a
absolutely.
learning curve. So
Yeah, if
So-
you brought a hamster home, you would put it in a cage and it would poop in the cage, right? Like there's a certain expectation for things like that. With dogs, it's a little bit bigger. So
Right.
we don't want them to poop in a cage or in our house. So we have to do things like house train and you know,
Right.
sometimes
Yes.
that is a little bit of a process. Anyways, let's dive into some of these reasons.
Okay.
So, first and foremost, first one on the list, puppies are loud.
they are.
And that is no joke. No joke. Whether it is whining, screaming, barking, yodeling. I don't know. I don't know. What's yowling? Is that, did I just make
I
that
think
word up?
yowling's like a cat. A cat would yowl. But I think puppies do put that in
Yeah.
there. They put the yowl in.
Yeah.
They are very loud. And
Yeah.
when are they at their loudest, Shannon?
Usually in the middle of the night when
Right.
you want to sleep.
Yes, yeah. Or early in the morning.
Yep.
You know what? It's 5 a.m. Puppy wake up time. But it's not human wake up time.
No, and some puppies will wake you up with this tiny little that's so cute. You just want to snuggle with them in bed. And some puppies wake up and go, What am I doing in this
Right.
box? What's happening?
Yes.
Where is everybody? Where are my litter mates? So noise. Let's talk a little bit about why puppies make noise, especially when they are in the crate and potentially a little bit more isolated than they've been used to.
So for the first 8 weeks of their life, puppies are used to being surrounded by their litter mates and maybe even the mom dog. So they're not used to being alone.
It's a party.
Right. And
Yeah.
so if one puppy toddles over to the corner of the litter box and suddenly finds themselves alone, they'll often make a noise.
Yeah.
And, within an instant, probably a litter mate or the mom is over there going, hey, what's up? Why are you making noise?
Yeah.
And the puppy says, hey, making noise brings me attention.
Absolutely.
And they do that for 8 weeks.
They do. They
And
do,
then-
absolutely. Sometimes even before they've got their eyes fully open, they'll like kind of wander around to some area of the whelping
Right.
box where they find themselves lost. And then when they find themselves lost, their instinct says make noise. It's one of the only things they have at that
Yeah.
point, only tools they have because they don't have clear vision and their hearing isn't clear yet. So they might start squawking a little bit at that point, and somebody's going to investigate.
Yeah.
Most likely mama dog's going to go over and nudge them back to the rest of the
Right.
litter and, lay on them and keep them warm and comfortable and offer them food and all that. So yeah, heavily, heavily reinforced from a very young age.
But yet people expect to bring their puppy home and the puppy suddenly is in this whole new life. They don't have those litter mates
Yeah,
that they've had for
absolutely.
8 weeks. And people expect the puppies to be able to be on their own.
Yeah.
And it's just not the way it goes.
No, not
the
yet.
puppies are going to try that noise tactic.
Yeah.
And they'll dig in harder too. We always tell people expect noise to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
It's called an extinction burst. It's science.
Getting all science talking like.
Right, yes.
Yeah. Honestly, it can range from tiny little whimpers to screams that would pierce your eardrums if you were right beside them. Like I admittedly biased. I have tollers. They're not known for barking. They're known for screaming. And that noise that they can make is ear shattering. But I've heard a lot of puppies over the years make very similar noises. So it's certainly not limited to tollers. Some puppies will bark right from the get-go. Some puppies will whine incessantly.
Right.
There's lots of noise that comes out of them. And the colossal mistake. What's the colossal mistake that people make when puppies are making noise in their crate?
People run to the puppy and
Yeah.
say, oh my goodness, and open the door and snuggle the puppy.
Yeah.
And the puppy goes, it still works.
It still works.
It
Absolutely.
still works.
It's a viable tactic.
Yep.
Let's keep torturing you with this noise.
Right,
So,
yes. Well, it also goes with another issue. People will watch people working with the crate and their puppies, and they'll play games with the puppies to get them loving the crate. But the moment they walk away, the puppy cries. And people seem to expect that the puppy's going to love the crate the first day.
Yeah.
And that is not true. It
I
could
have
take a
never
puppy.
had that experience.
Myself neither. I've only had it a little bit once with a puppy that was older that the breeder had crated.
Okay.
But most breeders don't crate the puppies.
Yeah.
The puppies are in a big glob of puppies. And so
Big glob. Actually, I think it is becoming a bigger trend with breeders to do some crate training
Right.
early now, which
is
is
perfect.
gold. If you can get that, if you can go to a breeder who's already invested in teaching the puppies to be a little bit independent before they go home, it's going to be so much nicer for you. And I will tell you, it is so much less stressful for the puppy.
Yes.
Truly is. That is a fabulous tactic.
I think a lot of people hear their puppies crying in the crate and they actually truly think it's tears.
Yeah.
They think, oh, he's so sad, his heart is broken. But it's not that. It's a tactic. It's saying, hey, I make noise and these are the only noises I can make.
Yeah.
Someone's going to eventually come to see me. It's worked in the past in my litter. It will work again.
Yeah, absolutely. If I had a motto in my dog training, it would be lean into it. If you have a problem with your dog, lean into it. I keep saying lately that if you had a child who wasn't strong in math and hated doing math, the worst thing you can do is keep them away from math forever. What you need to do is help them over that hump, right?
Yes.
You need to lean into it, help them figure out math so they don't hate it.
Right.
They're going to need to use it at some point in their life. The idea of saying, oh, well, he hates math, so I'm just going to throw it out the window is just ludicrous. But
And as a parent, I know how hard that is. It's hard
Yeah.
to roll up your sleeves and really help your child with homework at night.
Mm-hmm.
And, and the emotions that go along with it and your child's emotions.
Yeah.
But
And fighting your child to get them to do it.
Right. Yes. And it's tough work. But
Yeah.
as a parent, you go, okay, no, I have to do this.
Absolutely.
And we need to look at the puppies' issues too and go, you know what? It's tough work. I have to do this. I
Yeah.
can't just lift them out of the crate and snuggle them and expect the puppy to learn how to be in that crate.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
people will often think it's separation anxiety too. They'll
Yes.
say, oh, the puppy's crying. It must be separation anxiety. But it's not. It's the tactic.
Yeah.
But we can cause separation anxiety
Absolutely.
by going and getting the puppy out. Now
Yeah.
we are starting to teach the puppy.
Yeah, and
Yes.
that truly does. It makes your life harder in the long run, and it makes your dog's life, your dog's stress levels so much harder in the long run, because if they continue to think that is a viable tactic and they should use it to try to get out, they are going to keep going to that tactic.
Right.
And it's going to get bigger and badder before it subsides in any way, because it's worked at some point. So, excuse me. We always need to remember that we are in this with our puppies.
Right.
And we're, as instructor Robbie always says, we're not doing this to them, we're doing this for them.
Right.
You know,
That's good,
it is crucial that our dogs develop confident independence. The crate is a wonderful way of doing that. We love crate training. It comes with noise with young puppies. You can help your dogs by leaning into it. So
Right.
like with Levon, for example, I made sure, okay, you know what? He's making noise in the crate. I need to change his tactics.
Right.
I need to help him understand that that noise is not a tactic that is going to work. Being quiet is the tactic that's going to work. Quiet is what is going to bring me back into the room.
Right.
So I leaned into that hard the first day he was home. Actually, it was we got home that evening and then the next day. And I just wanted to make sure he had a good, clear understanding, because he needed to be at work in the crate while I was working and helping with graduation the next day. So I just said, okay, I got to get this done. I need to help him understand this right now. So he would make noise. I would stay outside of the room. I did some tactics like knocking on the wall so that would interrupt his noise. You know, sometimes if they hear a noise and they're not quite sure, they have to be quiet for a minute to listen to what it was. So when you get that moment to quiet, you can go, oh, that's better. What a good puppy. And then you appear, right? And after a whole bunch of repetitions of that, me leaving the room, him saying, oh my gosh, I'm alone again, me waiting until he was either quiet or helping him out with a little noise to make him quiet, and then walking back in the room and look at you, you're so good and quiet, and helping him recognize this new tactic is much more effective than this old tactic that you were using. And yeah, it was stressful for him in the moment. It was stressful for me in the moment,
Right,
you know,
yes.
oh, here's my new puppy and I have to listen to this. And, you know, our heartstrings just,
Right,
like, they
yes.
just get pulled so much. But in the long run, like after about 24 hours, he was like, okay, cool.
Right.
I'm okay when I'm alone. This is not the end of the world. And I know you're coming back.
Right. Yes.
I don't need to panic. I don't need to scream for you.
People often think of their emotions first. They say to themselves like, "Oh, this is heartbreaking for me. This is killing me," and they give in to their own emotions.
Yeah.
And that's not what's best for the puppy.
Absolutely.
So that they're really harming their puppy by giving into their emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a colossal mistake to make, and so much harder for the puppy in the long run. Like,
Yes.
truly, I always try to think, what is the message the puppy is getting? What is the message the dog is getting in this scenario? Is this a good message for them to get, or is this a message that is going to bite us both in the butt later on? So always try to think about that. You know, if you go to the crate because they are yowling, there's a cat in
The
there
new
with
word,
them.
yes.
Yeah, my new words that I'm making up. If you go to the crate because they are yowling and that works, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work, that's very upsetting for them in the
Right.
long run. Much more stressful than just, you know, new situation. Okay, let's figure this out. Let's help you understand what tactics will work to get me to come back in the room.
Right.
So
It's like if you see a 3-year-old child having a temper tantrum at the grocery store checkout
Yeah.
because he wants a chocolate bar.
yeah.
And if you saw the mom say, okay, you can have a chocolate bar, you would think, oh, wow, they're rewarding the wrong
Yeah,
thing there.
exactly.
Like, oh, my
Well,
goodness.
that's going to be a temper tantrum tomorrow again,
Right.
then when he sees the next chocolate bar.
Yes.
Absolutely, 100%.
But yet people respond to a puppy having a
Yeah.
temper tantrum.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So think of that. It's
Yep.
a temper tantrum.
Absolutely. Reward the good things. Don't give them chocolate
Right,
if they're laying on the floor kicking and screaming. Don't give them chocolate.
Now, when you bring home a new pup, do you expect to get a full night's sleep? We touched on this already.
Never.
No,
Never.
no. Sleep
No.
patterns change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I expect to wake up in the middle of the night because that puppy has gotten used to the idea of waking up in the middle of the night, wandering to the other side of the whelping box, having a poop or having a pee, and then going back to bed. Like, I watched Levon in his litter over webcam the whole time.
Right.
And I was just fascinated watching all these different little interactions. You know, I have a little bit of an insomnia, if you will, where sometimes I'll wake up at like 2 or 3 in the morning and I'll be up for a couple of hours and then I'll nap again for a short period of time before I'm up for the day.
So you got to watch puppy TV?
So yeah. I would, when I have those insomnia moments, I would wake up and I would look at the puppies, and most of the time they were sleeping in a heap, but there was usually some sort of action. And sometimes there was a pile of puppies sleeping and then 2 puppies over here playing. Or I was very closely watching Levon, and he's quite the, he's a very bold puppy. He's very impulsive. He's wonderful. I love him. He's so much fun. He's such a fun dog for somebody who likes to train and likes to work with their dogs. But I would watch him in the whelping box, and I'd watch him like wake up and go pee and then toddle over to one of the other dogs, and he'd just like grab an ear and start tugging and start shaking. And this poor puppy would like wake up screaming as Levon, and I'm sure it happened to him as well. But like this is what happens in the whelping box in the middle of the night.
Right.
So we often get questions about how to deal with that in the middle of the night. What do I do? Do I take him out? And you definitely need to meet their needs. So if my puppy wakes up in the middle of the night, and I'm going to expect that he's probably going to. I haven't had many puppies that have given me, Ned actually gave me a full night's sleep right off the bat, but I can't remember any of my other puppies ever doing that. So as soon as they wake up and give that little mutter, I want to take them out quickly, but I don't want to make it engaging.
Right. No parties.
Yeah, exactly. And, if you are tempted to make a big deal out of your puppy in the middle of the night, they're going to go, oh, that's so much nicer than sleeping here in my crate.
Right.
I'm going to wake you up. So be prepared. That's the colossal mistake there. Excuse me. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're just getting over that
Yeah,
cold. Yeah,
I am. Just that dry cough that's left over. What we want to do is we want to make it a non-event, right? So when my puppies wake me up in the middle of the night, I don't say anything. I take them out of the crate. I put the leash on. I carry them outside. I put them down. I hold the leash. I plant my feet. I let them go to the bathroom, and then I pick them up. I bring them back in. I put them straight back in the crate, and we all go back to bed. Right. Sometimes there's a little whimpering in that. Sometimes there's a little protest in going back into the crate, but stick to your guns.
Right.
It is so important that your puppy recognizes that they're not ever going to be in a position to wake you up in the middle of the night to party, because nobody wants that. Even with insomnia.
Right. And puppies don't sleep in either. And puppies also don't sleep in on the weekends.
Yeah.
So, during the week you get up at 7 for work, and maybe it's not a big deal, but on the weekends you might want to sleep in till 9. Well, your puppy doesn't want to. Your puppy wants to get up at 6, like he's been doing all week.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
Know that your family and yours sleep is going to be disrupted. Yeah. So, plan on getting up. Plan on getting up early. It's just the way it is with a puppy.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a question we do get is why won't my puppy sleep in?
Yeah.
They're babies. Newborn babies don't sleep in.
Yeah.
And toddlers don't sleep in.
Sometimes it's really hard for the family, because it might be a family. There might be kids in the family. Like the kids need their sleep. Maybe someone's working nights. Like there's all sorts of different things that'll happen out there. All our family units are so different. Right. But get yourself ready for that. You know, talk to your kids ahead of time that this puppy might make some noise. These are the tactics we need to take. We need to make sure that, you know, sometimes we are going to have to ignore the noise. Maybe have your children prepared with their doors closed. Maybe have them prepared with some headphones to muffle some of the noise, etc. Like, having the conversations first and foremost will ensure that nobody in the house is upset, right?
Right.
Like I've heard a lot of kids over the years who get really upset when they hear the puppies crying. And then that becomes a stress point for the parent too. Did you go through that with Ty?
Ty was pretty good because we had, quite a few puppies with him growing up. So he understood that puppies made noise. But I do remember, him calling out from his bedroom early one morning, like on a Saturday or something. It was Atari. And she would howl. She would wake up and howl.
Okay.
And she was howling, and I was ignoring her. And it's hard. I know it. Your ears start bleeding after a bit.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember
your ears and your heart. You just start melting in a puddle.
I remember thinking, no, I'm not responding to this. And I remember hearing Ty yell out from his room, like, Mom, make her stop, make her stop. And I think he just wanted to sleep. But it was just that one time I remember that he was probably, an early teenager. That's maybe why,
Yeah, they usually sleep the sleep of the dead.
Yes. And I think, too, you make sure your spouse is on board, too, because, it's going to disrupt your spouse, too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that usually lasts a few days to a week.
Right.
I typically expect that after the first week, I'm going to get to the point where my puppy now is sleeping through the night.
Right.
Sometimes I orchestrate that a little bit just by thinking, you know what? Okay, I put him to bed at this time. He had a drink at this time. I'm pretty sure this is just becoming habit over actually needing to go. And I'll also make sure that I'm noting up to that point, when I get my puppy out in the middle of the night, are they going pee right away? Like as soon as I put them down on the ground, are they squatting to pee? Or I put them down on the ground, they wander around, sniff a leaf, grab a piece of grass, and then sort of, oh, okay, now maybe I'll pee a little bit too. Well, that's not really a super urgent pee.
Right,
so as we get into that realm, I'll start to think, okay, you know what? Instead of letting you out right away, I'm going to see if you settle after 10 or 15 minutes here. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
Sometimes they go back to sleep. And you go, yes, there's a win for me. And sometimes they don't go back to sleep and you think, oh, okay, I guess I'll get up. And now you're wider awake. But again, it's a good means to an end, right? I'll always try to think about the longer term because that's what you're aiming for with a puppy. We've got 10 or 15 years, hopefully, if we're lucky, of living wonderfully with this puppy and having them sleep through the night. Right. So think about that end goal versus just this immediate gratification sort of thing.
Yes.
Alrighty. Puppies are messy. Puppies make a heck of a mess.
They do.
And so this point was really more related to house training. The expectation of errorless learning is probably going to be a little bit far-fetched, right? Puppies are going to make mistakes. They're going to have accidents in the house. What's the colossal mistake of a puppy having an accident in the house? What is the human colossal mistake?
The human colossal is not watching them.
Yeah,
not
it.
supervising. Yes,
absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah, if you come around the corner and there are dog logs on your kitchen floor,
rolling downstairs alone repairs,
then you've missed the optimum time for training. So catching a dog in the act, catching a puppy in the act of going is perfect timing. And we talk about timing a lot in dog training. So I see the puppy start to show signs. They might sniff, they might circle, they might kind of look a little bit panicky. Yeah. They might start to squat. At that moment, it's like, chances are they need to go. I'm going to get them out. But if I see them squat and suddenly I can see stuff is coming out, then I'm going to quick use a verbal and catch them and grab them and take them outside really quickly.
Perfect. It's so important that we give them that instant message. If we let them think that it is okay to go when we're not there watching them, if we have those lapses in supervision where they end up having accidents, it sets up a different expectation for the puppy.
Right.
If we catch them the instant they start going, the expectation becomes very clear to them. Okay, I shouldn't go pee in here. I should instead go pee outside. And that's, of course, assuming that you've spent some time helping them understand that going outside is the right thing. I always like to say, don't feed your puppy for peeing. Don't feed your puppy for peeing outside. Going to the bathroom is a self-rewarding behavior in and of itself. And that is more than enough reward for the puppy. A lot of times, puppies learn to push the envelope. Oh, I want to get outside and pretend to pee or have a tiny little squirt because it gets me a cookie, right?
Right.
As your puppies develop value for things, you will see them continually trying to figure out how to get to that value. Right. So we want to make sure that the things that we provide them value for are things that we really want to happen.
Yes.
Of course, we do want them to pee outside, but praise is more than enough.
I have a big tip.
Excellent. Let's do it.
Buy a pair of easy to get in shoes.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
And keep them right at the back door because you don't have time to sit down and tie up your shoes. You got to get out quick. So they got to be shoes you could jump into. I actually have a pair of like Canadian Tire rubber boots.
Okay.
I can step in and be outside like all in one step. So be prepared because you're going to have to move quickly outdoors.
Absolutely. I love my Crocs for that. I always have a pair of Crocs at the door that I'm headed out to go to the not for me to go to the bathroom, although that happens sometimes too, but for the pups to go to the bathroom. And then they double as great tug toys.
Oh, right.
They do.
Yep.
So when I get back inside, a lot of the times, yay, what a good puppy. I want my puppy to want to come back inside with me. So I set the tone as this is a fun thing to do. So as I'm taking off my shoes, a lot of the times I have a pair of Crocs that has raised 3 tollers now.
Wow.
They've got lots of little pinholes
You
in them.
should sell them
but they're
because
dedicated for
people
that.
want to buy them because they have experience in raising a puppy.
They do.
Experience
You know,
puppy
I
raising
should market
Crocs.
them.
Yeah.
It's like this generation's pet rock.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
The pet Croc.
Yeah, the
Croc.
pet Croc. And you know what? Like, I use my Croc just because that's something that I've gotten into the habit of doing. You do not have to use a shoe. And if you're not prepared to make sure that the dog understands clearly, this is only acceptable when I invite the play,
Right.
then you might end up creating a situation where your dog likes to choose shoes. So,
Right. Or chase people wearing Crocs.
exactly. Oh my gosh, there's a person in Crocs. You know, it's the fashion
Right.
place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Now,
I don't
would
think
you ever-
Crocs are very fashionable.
Would
But
you ever
can-
take them to the Croc outlet store?
Oh, they'd run
Go
amok.
insane. They'd go insane.
They'd run an absolute muck.
The employees would say, "We've been training for this moment for months." It's like on The Simpsons when
That's true.
the
This is the moment they laughed at me when I said we need to prepare
Right.
for it. What was it?
the elephant Stampy in the peanut factory.
Stampy in the peanut factory. There you go, Albert. We're back.
Yeah.
We're back with our Simpsons references. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, you know, you can keep a tug toy at the back door. You can keep a little dish of kibble at the back door, right? When you come back inside with your puppy, oh, you're such a smart puppy. Feed them a couple of times, you know, have them sit at the back door, do some tricks at the back door, make it pleasant for them
Right,
to
yeah.
come back in with you. And it is going to make your life so much easier down the road when you're like, okay, like Levon now, of course, I don't go out with him to go to the bathroom now. He's 11 months old, for heaven's sakes. He can definitely take care of that on his own without any issues. So when I open the door to say, okay, you're done out there, like, let's bring it back
Right.
inside, he flies inside. You know, he doesn't even wait for me to call him. As soon as he
Right.
hears the door, he can hear the patio door sliding from wherever he is in the yard. And I see him right away turn and come running up the stairs because it's become very valuable for him to do so.
Yes.
So I don't have to stand there and stand there and stand there, and I don't have to waste a recall, and I don't, you know,
Right.
like he wants to do the thing. And now we're at the point where it's a variable reward schedule.
Right.
So the overwhelming majority of time he comes in and I go, oh, you're the best dog ever. Way to go, buddy. And we carry about our days. But every once in a while I go, yay, what a guy. And I give him a handful of kibble.
Yes.
Or I go, yay, what a guy. And I pull that Croc up and we have a
Right.
little tug session with the Croc. So it's enough to keep that behavior motivated. And it's just a nice
It's a
thing.
good idea, yeah.
It's such a convenient way of dealing with them being out in the yard. Because,
Right.
you know, sometimes it's fun to sniff around out there and go,
Right.
I don't want to come in the house. So we set that up right away.
And be prepared for some grossness in the bathroom department
Yeah.
too. Like puppies have accidents in their crate.
Yep.
Puppies get diarrhea, just like people
Didn't
get
you
diarrhea.
say that was the TikTok video you're going to make? Cleaning diarrhea
Oh,
off
right,
your
yeah.
puppy at
Off your-
3 a.m.?
Right, yes. Like I've had puppies that, you know, something's happened and they now have diarrhea and now it's all over them in the crate.
Yeah.
My Saluki cowboy, she used to get car sick, but not throwing up, diarrhea car sick. And she would be in a crate and she'd end up covered in it. And so expect that.
Yeah.
You know, or even if they're going to the bathroom, you pick them up midstream and they finish peeing in your hand. Like, you know, or they
Or
step,
on your side.
yeah, or
you know.
they step in poo outside and you don't realize
Don't
that you
pick them up like a baby and face them
Right,
towards
yeah,
you,
yeah.
especially if you got the boys.
male.
Woo.
Yeah. So expect there's going to be some incidents.
Yeah,
Or,
absolutely.
you know, they're going to go to the bathroom possibly on a carpet in the house and you're going to have to clean it.
So on that note, if you have like this lovely formal living room with beautiful white carpet, that's probably not the place to set up for your puppy.
Right.
You know that there's probably going to be a mess or two.
Yeah.
And even if it's not a huge poo accident, just having pee on carpet is
Right.
a really hard thing to deal with because of course it gets right into the fibers.
Yep.
So as you're setting up, you know, plan to have flooring, plan to have an area where, you know, you can spend time with your puppy and it's not going to be a hardship to clean up that accident.
Right, yes.
I mean, it's still a hardship to clean it up, but it's not going to be a huge
Right,
hardship
yes,
where you really
yes.
can't get it cleaned up.
And be prepared. I always, you know, even though Honda's older, I always have everything I need for cleanup. I've bought like a carpet urine cleaner.
Okay.
I have everything in my house that if something does happen, I don't have to rush to the store. I have everything there because Honda every once in a while throws up and usually he throws up on the floor, but the odd time he throws up on the carpet. So
Yeah.
I make sure I'm prepared.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I got into the habit of that when I had my first old dog because sometimes they leak and dribble and there's all sorts of things. And, we love our old dogs, so we just deal with it and we clean it up and hopefully we have
part
good
of
enough
having
products.
a dog. Yep. And the same with a puppy. It's part of having a puppy. They're going to throw up.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're going to get diarrhea. It's just the way it goes.
It's the way they make a mess. They sure do.
Yes.
Alrighty. Let's move on from the mess. What else do puppies do that sucks?
Well, they bite you.
Yeah, that's exactly
they bite
what
you.
I was headed to.
And they have the sharp, it's like, why? Puppies should have little gummy teeth.
I know. They call them milk teeth. The poor mums.
Right.
Oh my goodness. So many females end up with like disasters of nipples because those teeth are so sharp. And of course,
and sharp toenails too.
Sharp toenails. Yeah, you got it. They're part of the anatomy and they come with the puppy. So we can't have them removed. They need their teeth.
Right.
They're going to get their adult teeth around, they're going to start to get their adult teeth between 3 and 5 months. And then they're not as sharp, but their jaws get stronger.
Right, yeah.
So we need to deal with this. We need to teach them that nipping is not okay in a human world. But a lot of the times that comes with dealing with some nipping that hurts. So
we
normal.
Go back to the litter box. Just like Shannon, watching all these puppies in the litter.
Just like Shannon using the litter box.
What would Levon do? He'd run over and nip one of his litter mates.
1,000%. He is the nippiest puppy I've had since my Rottweiler. He was brutal with a capital B. If he was my first toller, I might have tapped out. Like, honestly, he was like, I jokingly refer to him as my IGP dog, which is a bite sport. And I think that he would probably excel at that sport. So I've now channeled the biting. So he's limited to biting in situations where I've given him permission, we're using a toy or we're using something that I've said is okay for him to tug on, aka the croc, etc. But those early days, like, I've got some marks on me from this puppy just going like, let's play, let's do it.
And our puppies are so innocent. They don't know they can't bite us. They have no idea in the world.
I often say to people when they're feeling really bad about this, right? Because people take it personally. They do. They take it personally. They worry that their dogs are aggressive, first off. And nothing could be further from the truth. Puppy nipping, such a normal thing. It is absolutely 100% not going to be connected to aggression. It's how they play. Some puppies are bred to be much more reinforced by biting than others. Tollers are usually fairly soft-mouthed breeds. So this threw me for a loop a little bit, Like I said, I've not had a nipper as bad since my Rottweiler. And a Rottweiler is bred to want to bite. Shepherds, Dobermans, there's all sorts of dogs that are bred to love biting. It's part of their DNA. Malinois. You had Malinois.
Yes, they were my worst nippers. Yeah. Now my one corgi was a little bit of a nipper.
Okay, that's not super surprising.
Right, yes, because they're bred to nip at the heels of cattle, like an Australian cattle dog would. But my Malinois were tenacious, like full-on mouth biters, whereas the corgi would more nip and and even my Saluki.
Honda's looking at you. He's like, hey.
I don't think Honda ever nipped.
I was the worst nipper you've ever had. I'm so tough.
You were never nipper. Even my Cowboy loved to run past, and as she ran past you, being a Saluki at 1,000,000 miles an hour, she would reach out and try to bite you in the butt.
Oh my.
And so
that would hurt with a fast dog.
So as a puppy, she didn't really nip, but I'd say as like older puppies, 4 or 5 months, when she was basically at your butt height, suddenly she got into this new habit of running, nipping at your butt, running, nipping at your butt. And it was, it was a new one for me.
Oh my, yeah. And like, I often say, this is your puppy wanting to play with you. Like, don't take it personally.
Right.
It is not, they're not aggressive, and it is not evil.
Right.
It's not them being bad. It's just them being a puppy.
Yep.
We're all genetically prone to things. We're all true to our nature. Our instincts kick in and drive our behavior. And what we need to do with our puppies is help them understand what's acceptable and what's not now in this life. So consistent information to help get them over that is the thing that is necessary. And, if you give them good, clear information, they generally will very quickly go, oh, okay.
Right.
I get it. All right. let's move on then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's
Right,
next on
yeah,
the agenda
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
thing. So, okay, I can bite over here. Great. Then
Right.
I'll bite over here, right? So a lot of times they do need an outlet. You know, if you're getting, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, people often think it's teething.
Yeah.
but
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that a bit.
Yeah, it's not teething. When you
Such
first
different
bring home a
creatures.
new puppy, they're not
Yeah.
teething. They're play biting. They're trying to investigate the world by nipping.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. I've actually written an article called the Nipping versus Teething, the Truth and the Difference. And like they're worlds apart. I mean, teething is basically the exchange of baby teeth for adult teeth. The milk teeth come out, the adult teeth come in, and there's irritation with the gums, of
Right.
course, just like we expect with our human babies. We give them teething rings and things like that. There's all sorts of things that you can do to help with teething with a puppy, but it is never an excuse for nipping.
Right. Yes.
Never.
So a puppy coming in and giving you a quick nip is nothing to do with teething. That is a puppy saying, "Hey, let's play."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's play. And sometimes it's them being a little bit pushy too.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes they learn to, a lot of the times with the colossal mistakes that we make as humans, we don't nip the nipping in the bud, and the puppy learns to control the world with their teeth. And that is a really bad message.
Yes.
So especially with those dogs who are so innately reinforced for biting, we need
Right.
to make sure we get that under control very, very quickly.
We've seen videos in our program of people who are afraid of their puppy.
Yeah,
You know, they have like a 12-week-old golden retriever, and it's running the house because it's learned that it can back people off by nipping and snapping and showing its teeth.
Absolutely.
And it's not a bad puppy.
No, not at all.
It just learned that it can do that
Yeah.
from the people's reactions.
Absolutely. And in the puppy's mind, you know, it doesn't matter that you're the adult. It doesn't matter that you're the caregiver in the situation. If they think this is an acceptable behavior, if they think this is a good way to control the world, they're going to go to that tactic.
Right.
You know, they're governed by different rules than we are. And what we need to do is give them clear, consistent information of what's acceptable and what's not. And you can do that in so many different ways, but as long as you are consistent with your dog, as long as you are clear with them, I personally like to nip it in the bud as quickly as I can.
That's a good pun.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then I make sure that I give them a channel for that. So Levon, for example, I didn't want to squash his desire to bite. I wanted to squash his desire to bite me.
Right.
I wanted to squash his desire to keep putting holes in me.
Right.
But I didn't necessarily want to squash that drive. You know, I like the fact that he was like, I want to play, and I'm a maniac in that play, right? That's part of the reason I got a toller instead of getting, you know,
A Pekingese.
there you go. Because I want a lively dog that's like, let's work, let's do it.
Why don't we see more Pekingese? Why don't people get them?
Because they have too many legs.
That's right.
How
They're
many legs do they have?
6 legs.
They're the only dog that has 6 legs.
That's
It's
our
too
joke.
Many, it's too many nails to cut.
Right, yeah, too many toenails on a
And you have to
Pekingese.
find them under all that hair. I just don't understand. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, channeling it, right? Teaching them what's appropriate to bite, teaching them how to tug appropriately with you, teaching them an on and an off switch for that biting, you know, all of those things for the nipping.
Yes.
All of those things are so, so valuable. And then, of course, there's an element of discipline as well that we need to let the puppies know it is absolutely not acceptable because we don't want them to become adolescents who control the world with their teeth and bite. We don't want them to become adults who control the world with their teeth and bite. We want them to develop good bite inhibition, and we want to channel that drive to something productive.
And they won't outgrow it. If you allow an 8-week-old pup to nip, it'll become a 10-week-old pup that nips, a 16-week-old pup that nips. It'll become an adult dog that nips.
Excuse me. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. It's going to follow you, and it's going to plague you.
Right.
The plague.
Because we want to teach them. So even if they say, even if you go, 10 months, he's not really nipping me as much, but he's never learned not to nip you. So the day that you inadvertently step on his foot, he's never learned that he can't nip you. So he's going to lash out and say, hey, grab you. Yes.
That is a really, really good point. It's so important that they understand clearly what is allowed, what is not, and you know, and then we move on, right? Again,
yeah, you move on. Yeah,
I mean,
it's not a big deal.
Some dogs are a little bit harder to convince, but for the most part, they go, okay,
right.
you know, I get it. All right,
Like
no
if
problem. They don't take it personally.
If you've got an Australian cattle dog puppy from hard-working lines, cow lines, expect that's going to be a much more difficult path than if you have a little puffy Bichon Frise.
Yes.
That's been bred to look adorable.
Absolutely.
So think of your breeds too.
Yeah.
If you know that you're going to have trouble disciplining for nipping, then you know maybe a cattle dog's not the breed for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Such wise words. Truly, truly. Alrighty.
I know what else puppies do.
What do?
They have no respect for your expensive shoes.
Oh my
Expensive
goodness.
shoes chew up just as good as the cheap ones.
Puppies are destructive.
Right.
Here's another thing people take personally. He chewed my shoe. He's mad at me.
Right.
You know, what do you think about that?
He chewed your shoe because it was fun and it was there and he could.
Yeah, exactly.
Puppies will do what you let them do.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? They go for the stinky things.
Yes.
And they go for the things that smell like you, especially if they're, if they're alone, unsupervised before they're ready, for example.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, I'm bored. Oh, the remote smells like my human. Oh, let me lick. Let me taste it. Oh, there's fingerprints from pizza from the other night. It smells really good. Oh, those glasses, they had some sweaty smell to them. Like there's all sorts of gross human smells that we don't think about.
That dogs love, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So
yeah, if you have a pile of clean laundry and a pile of dirty laundry and put your puppy in front of it, your puppy will always grab something from the dirty laundry.
Oh, that's a fact. It smells like heaven in there.
Yep.
Whew, let me get in there. Let me throw some things around.
Right, yeah,
tear
and
some things
having
up.
worked in a veterinary emergency hospital, we got many phone calls from dogs who've eaten socks and underwear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I bet.
And then it's funny because
lots.
we'd have the dog throw it up, and then we'd always show the owner what the dog had thrown up. It was usually on a big pee pad, and sure enough, there'd be a pair of underwear in there, and you could see sometimes they were like women's kind of fancy underwear, and you could see the woman so embarrassed. She's like, "Oh yeah, that's the ones." Yep.
Oh, I was wondering where they went.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what's the strangest thing that you saw a dog have to throw up or be removed?
Well, a Labrador jumped up on the edge of a stove and swallowed a big soup spoon once. Just grabbed the soup spoon and swallowed it.
Oh my God. Like some of these things you don't even think are physically possible.
Right, yes. And it was a big, not a ladle, but it was a soup spoon.
That's what I was just going to say. It was
the
a
dog
ladle.
just grabbed the person said they grabbed it out of the pot and just went gulp and it was gone.
Unreal.
I thought, wow.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, and a lot of the times people teach their dogs to wolf things down by allowing them too much freedom before they're ready and then leaving all sorts of things out on the floor for them to investigate and grab.
Right.
So like talking about these Crocs, for example, I make sure that the Crocs are not accessible unless I am there with the Crocs, right? So like they're by the back door, but there's a baby gate so that the puppy can't get to that back door area unless we go together to that back door area. So there's a certain amount of management that we want to take to make sure that our puppies aren't able to get into mischief. And I especially don't want my puppy to learn that when they get something that they think is valuable, I'm going to take it away from them.
Right.
Because first off, that can lead to some really bad resource guarding issues as your puppy grows and matures and gets older. Second off, you're going to have a puppy that might try to gulp things down.
Yes.
So it is so important that we take the time when things are good, right? When things are not in that emotional emergent state, it's so important that we take the time to teach our puppies to relinquish things to us. I do this through tug as one of my primary things, but then I use, if they're laying around chewing on bones, things like that, I will teach my puppy to trade. And then very quickly I change that trade into a reward system. So for example, I might spend a couple of days and a couple of sessions saying, tug, get it, playing, having a little rough, fun time with the puppy, with the tug toy. And then I'll say out and offer them a cookie 1 second later, right? So I'm going to pattern this over a couple of days, but I don't want to stay there for too long because I don't want my puppy to start to expect that trade. I want to use it in order to get him to relinquish the item in that moment and to teach him that action.
Right.
But then very quickly after maybe a couple of sessions, a couple of days, I start to hold back on that reward. I say out and I'm looking to see if the puppy has learned to anticipate that treat is coming. And then at that point, when they do spit the thing out, I say yes. And now I'm going to bring out the food to reward them. And that seems like a very small difference, but it's huge for the puppies. A lot of the times we spend way too much time saying out, offering the trade or using bad timing. And we offer the trade and then we're saying out once the trade is already visible and the dog learns, okay, I wait for the trade before I spit the thing out. And that's not what we want.
Right.
I also use a variety of rewards with this. So after that first initial couple of sessions where I'm doing the trade, I'll then go to out. And as soon as my puppy lets go of the toy, yes. And I start the game again. Get it. So they learn the quicker I drop the thing, the quicker the game starts again. And of course, if I say out and they don't drop the thing, I make the thing very boring. I hold it tight against my leg. It no longer is a tug toy. I might even reach in and take my puppy's collar so they can't keep trying to tug back against the thing. And basically the fun just ends, right? And they go, oh, what's going on? Eventually they're going to spit the toy because they get bored. Right. And then, yes, get it. And we start the game again. And I've never had a puppy that's taken more than, 2 or 3 repetitions of that
to figure it
to
out.
start really trying hard to spit out the toy. Yeah. But also something to keep in mind is that those puppy teeth are super sharp and they get stuck in things easily. So don't be in a huge pulling match with them trying to take it away. Calm yourself and give them time to actually open their mouth and let go versus you trying to pull it out of the puppy's mouth. Yes. That's an important thing too, because if you're still pulling, you're still playing the game. It's still fun.
It's still fun, yes.
And the puppy goes, no, I still want to play. It makes it harder for them. So it's a colossal mistake to not teach, drop it out, etc. when things are good. Right. Don't wait until they're finding the things because you'll create a gulper. Yes. You really will. And a lot of labs, they are such walking stomachs.
Yes, everything goes in there.
Yeah, they're just like that's their entire world. Yeah. I'm looking for food. I'm looking for food. I'm looking for food. So
everything fits in my mouth and fits in my stomach.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is a problem. Lean into it. Right. Teach the dog what you want them to do. Teach them to give things up to you and that it is a really good thing to do so. Make sure you have the ability to be there, take control easily, have a leash on the dog. All of those things. So important for being able to give your dog good information. If you can't, if you're not watching them, you can't give them good information. Right. If you can't catch them, you're going to give them poor information and it's going to make your life more difficult in the long run. That's why we use a house line. Yes. So talk about the house line in a nutshell.
The house line is a piece of rope with a clip attached to it that your puppy drags around the house all the time, and it gives you instant control because now instead of trying to grab a puppy, you just use your foot and step on the line or pick up the line and voila, you have control.
Perfect. I'm glad you said use your foot and step on the line because I think a lot of times people think if it's leash, I need to be holding the other end of it.
It drags along behind them. It's like an extra appendage.
Yeah. Yes. That's one of those extra legs. Right. Now Pekingese have lots of legs.
Yes. And it's really the cheapest and most effective training tool that we can recommend.
Yeah. I think half of our videos on YouTube are titled that. The best training tool that you will ever buy in your life. Yes. And it is the house line. Because truly, if you cannot catch them, you're sunk. Right. You know, as soon as your puppy learns that it's fun to run away from you and play keep away, you're in for a time.
You're doing it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's rewarding. Yes. Whatever the message is for the puppy, right? If that puppy says, oh, it's fun to play keep away, which they love to do with their litter mates, right?
I remember in high school, my boyfriend in high school, their dog had learned as a puppy to run underneath their big TV cabinet. And when people reached in to try to get it, the dog would nip and snap and the people backed off. And, it's kind of cute and innocent as a puppy, but it was still doing this, and it was a couple of years old. And it grabbed my mitten one day, and it ran underneath the TV cabinet, as it's been doing all its life. And then it laid there, and you could tell the dog was thrilled. It was excited about this. Someone's going to reach under now.
This is my favorite game ever. That dog was probably sitting there in wait, just looking for something to snatch and run under because that's how it's got its reinforcement.
And the whole family kind of went, oh, your mitten's gone now, Christine. And me coming from a dog training family, I didn't even hesitate. I just laid down, I reached under, grabbed that dog by the collar, and whipped it out of there. And they were like, oh,
We've never seen anyone do that before.
Right? Yeah. Oh and another incident was one of Ty's aunt's little dogs grabbed a big piece of turkey skin and was off the turkey platter and was running around the house. And the whole family, that side of the family, was in a panic that no one could get this dog because it would bite them.
I'm picturing the Benny Hill music.
Yeah. It was a little caton de Touleur. And I remember this is ridiculous. And I remember just reaching down and the puppy it wasn't a puppy, it was an adult dog. It's growling at me and that, but I thought this has to come out of its mouth and just pulling it out over and done with.
Yeah, there you go.
So our dogs will do what we allow them to do. And if they learn that we'll chase them and they can hide, it's a game, and they're looking to play that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, so mischievous.
Yes. So mischievous. I got reminded of a story, and I just have to tell it. About 20-something years ago, when my niece was young, there was a type of Barbie doll called a Brat. Brats, they were called.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess, and they were like
these.
a treasured thing, and it was right at the height of their popularity. And it was her birthday, and we went out for lunch, and I bought her a Bratz doll, and she was 7 or something like that. So this was like treasured, and she loved it, and she was so excited about it. And then we came to my house for some reason, I don't know why, and she put her Bratz doll down on an ottoman, on a low stool.
Okay. Oh no, I know where this is going.
And then we were doing something. And then I walked back into the living room first before her, and I saw a massacre. And I remember the first thing I said was, Paige, I will buy you a new Bratz. And she's like, why? And then you heard the scream come out of her.
Oh my gosh.
My adult corgi, Gavin, had pulled all the hair off her and had left this bizarre looking hairless doll with hair everywhere just lying on the floor, this little bald doll. And it was an adult dog.
Oh my gosh.
And he had never done anything like that before, not since he was a baby puppy, but there was something about
But
this
he's never
hair,
seen a Bratz doll before.
right? And he had to just pull the hair
Oh
out
my
of her. So he must
gosh.
have put a paw on the body and just played tug pulling out the hair.
I bet that
and
was so
it was
fun.
It was pretty gruesome to look at, this doll. And I remember, of course, it was a specific one. And I called all the Toys R Us's like close by, and they were all out of her. And I remember I could see my niece was like fighting back the tears.
Oh.
And finally I found one like about an hour away. That's like, okay, nope, we're driving an hour away and I'll get you another one. So in the car we drove an hour to get this other doll. I had them hold it for us because it was a hot thing at the time. And so you never know what your dogs are going to do.
No.
So you never know.
No, you truly don't. And
Right.
oh my goodness, imagine if you got that one home and he was like, they brought me another one,
yes.
to destroy.
But it was awful because of the horrified look on the 7-year-old's face of what this dog had done to her doll.
Oh, I bet. Oh,
So
my
things are
goodness.
going to happen.
Has she forgiven you yet?
I don't know.
That was
I don't
many
know.
years ago.
Many
You
years
should
ago.
ask her.
I should bring it up
Yeah.
next time I
Do
see
you
her.
remember?
Yeah.
I bet
But-
she remembers. She's probably traumatized.
Yeah. Keep in mind, your dog, chances are your dog's going to wreck something of yours at some point. Something's going to get wrecked or get a tooth mark in it. You know, it's not going to all be pleasant with your
No.
puppy.
Well, and sometimes there's situations where your dog just hasn't tried it yet.
Right.
You know, like it's so funny because watching Ned and Levon together, Ned and Reggie, of course, had their relationship together, and then Reggie passed. And now Ned getting used to Levon is this new relationship. Ned's a fairly steady dog. Like he's very thoughtful. He'll stand back from a situation and sort of watch it unfold rather than be impulsive and try to get into it. And like there's things that I see him trying now because he sees Levon trying it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, wow, like
Right.
this is so interesting. I love observing
Right,
dogs
yeah.
and their natural behavior. Like it really, really fascinates me to watch and try to figure out what's going on in those fuzzy little brains. I just love it. And I find it very interesting. And
Right.
I think often like some of these situations like that Bratz doll, he'd probably just never tried it before.
Right, yeah.
So nobody had ever told him it was wrong.
Right. And I don't know if I don't think they're like strawberry shortcake dolls that had a smell on them.
No, I don't know. I don't think
I
so.
can't think so, no. But
No.
it's just that little fuzzy hair. It's
Yeah.
like, that needs
That
to
was
be pulled
exciting.
out.
Well, and you know, like it might have been a very different toy than what Ty was used to playing.
Right.
with,
Well,
right?
Ty wasn't born yet. So
Oh, well, there you
yeah,
go.
this was before Ty was born.
Oh,
so
yeah, of course,
He'd
Gavin.
never really seen children's toys. I think,
Yeah.
Gavin passed away when Ty was 2.
Okay.
Yes. So before that, he'd never really seen kids' toys. And we never had any trouble with Ty's toys because I think I was prepared. It's like, okay, no, I have an older dog, but I'm going to have to teach him that now the toys laying around on the ground might be somebody else's.
Yeah.
Whereas up until that point, all toys on the floor had been for dogs.
Yeah.
At their level. So he's probably like, this is awesome.
There
Thank
you.
you.
Go. Yeah, thanks a lot for this toy. I'm going to take care of it right now.
Right, yeah.
Actually, there was a time when Reggie was about, I don't know, I was in my house on Alice Street, so he probably would have been like 4-ish. And he would always get really excited when I would shovel. I usually would let him out with me, and he would, chase the snow and chase the shovel, and life was great. And I was doing the front at Alice Street, and he was inside watching me from the window. And I kept looking up and seeing him at the window and being like, oh, what a cutie. Look at him watching me there. And I think I had Tyler and Jaden at the same time at that point. So 3 tollers in the house. Anyways, I got back in, and just out of the blue, he had taken a pillow and he had somehow degloved the pillow and pulled all the shredding or all the innards out of the pillow. And I was like, you're a 4-year-old dog. How is this possible? And I thought, okay, he's never, ever, ever tried to play with a pillow before. Like, he's just never tried it.
Right.
So he tried it. I was outside. He probably was stimulated watching me shovel. He probably got tired of watching me through the window and was like, I really want to chase that snow, and had this like pent up energy, excitement, and then poof, the pillow was the
Now, are you sure the pillow just didn't explode? And he was like, "Thank goodness
That's
you're
what
home."
he
The
said.
pillow exploded.
That's exactly what he said. When I asked him, he said, "No, it jumped into my mouth and started like attacking my teeth." And I was like, "Oh, well, you know, that happens. I've had that happen to me too. You know, I wake up in the morning and my pillow's shredded, or at least drooly and wet. So maybe." Maybe it was trying to attack me, as I said. Anyways, you know, he never did it again after that. Yeah. I watched intently.
Yes.
I made sure that the next time I had to go out and shovel the front, I brought him with me, and he sat on the deck or like laid down on the deck or whatever and just waited instead of being in the house by himself, because I thought, certainly don't want to create a rehearsal situation out of this where every time I go to shovel, he destroys one of my pillows. But it never happened again. And I mean, he lived till 15.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes I think they've just never tried it before.
Yeah,
and now if there's nobody there to tell them it's wrong, must be okay. It feels pretty darn good.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what happens too. People leave their puppy out of the crate and they go, okay, be good, and off they go. And the puppy starts chewing a table leg and there's nobody there to tell them that it's wrong. Yeah. And the person comes home and they're angry with the puppy, but they've missed the timing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it feels good to chew. You know, dogs love to chew. They're born to chew. If you give them a good chew toy, they're going to dig right into it like we might with a movie or a book.
Right, yeah.
You know, that's their entertainment. So, yeah, puppies can be destructive. We need to make sure we channel those drives.
Right. What else do puppies do?
Puppies cost you money.
Oh my goodness, they do cost you money.
Yeah. And you know what? It's amazing how much more and more and more money they are costing as time goes on.
Yes.
I'm floored by the cost of vet bills these days.
And I don't begrudge the vets. They have to pay their staff. They have to buy all the, you know, they need to buy all those ultrasound machines and x-ray machines, and they need to pay electrical bills and pay rent and pay themselves. Yeah. So it's just the cost of living.
It is. But there's also this, like, there's been a couple of exposés that have gone on. One was 60 Minutes.
Oh, and Marketplace.
Marketplace, yeah, CBC Marketplace. I watched both of those, and there's interesting shifts that are happening in the veterinary, in the medical world for dogs and cats and animals, in that corporations are taking over and they are using corporate strategies to set prices and make things more expensive. So it is well worth it for you to know whether you're dealing with an independent vet or whether you're dealing with a corporation. And those exposés were really good. I would highly recommend anybody who is thinking about getting a dog or a cat or, you know, any sort of animal that's going to need some veterinary care. I would highly recommend looking up those exposés. I found them on YouTube and they were very informative. They were very, very eye-opening. So just going in with an educated perspective, so that if you think, I think that there's some price gouging going on here, or I think that I'm being overcharged or given services I don't need.
Yes, services that I don't need. That's one thing that I like to watch out for. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And being educated yourself about potentially what you would need for this specific condition is going to help protect you, because if you know that, you know, they use the example of just a urinary tract infection, which is generally a fairly easy thing to diagnose and help a dog with. And there were some clinics that were doing, you know, ultrasounds and all sorts of high-end tests that, you know, maybe there's some value to come out of this.
Right.
And I've always said, like, our medical professionals, their job is not to tell us what to do. Their job is to give us our options, and then we choose from those options. But the way options are presented can sometimes be different than the way they should be interpreted. So a little bit of education for yourself. And if you think this doesn't seem right, seeking out a second opinion is always a good thing. And yeah, don't get me wrong, our vets are amazing. I love our vets. I have a wonderful vet. I'm so thrilled with them. Like, I could not possibly be happy not having a good connection to a vet. Good vet, good mechanic, and you're set.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Good doctor too, probably.
Right. Yes.
We should probably take care of ourselves in there too.
Yeah, well, that's one thing for puppy owners.
Yeah.
Look ahead. So the purchase price of the puppy is maybe your least amount of money.
Absolutely.
Because now you're also going to have to look at all those first puppy vaccinations and visits and deworming and all the little things with puppies. So, call a vet's office before you get your puppy so you can start to save and know how much you're going to need for all those things. The spay and neuter, find out how much that's going to be. Look at how much obedience classes are going to cost. Factor in the price of, do you need a pet sitter to come in during the day to let your puppy out because you have to work 8 hours?
Absolutely. Well, you know what? Let's talk about that for a minute, because that's another thing that I think there's a bit of a misconception here. And I'm not sure if it goes back to the idea that we would have had more outdoor dogs back in the day, right? Where they just lived outside during the day so they could use the bathroom while you were at work for your 8 hours. Now our dogs live in the house predominantly.
I think, too, if we go way, way back, often the mom stayed home with the kids, too.
Oh, that's a good point, too.
If we go way back,
there might have been
the mom
somebody
was
in the house
there,
in a
or the
family
mom was
unit.
working part-time. So, but now most parents work full-time. Most people work full-time.
Yeah, some full-time plus.
Yes.
To be able to afford the care for their puppies.
Yes, right. So it's unrealistic to think a puppy can hold its bladder for 8, maybe 10 hours if you include your commute.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And for the first couple of months, you're going to need to find some way of helping with that. And, our best advice, of course, is to be able to be there yourself, get back home, whether you take your lunch hour and like a latchkey kid, you go home, let the puppy out, have a little play, and then put them back away while you go back to work. Sometimes puppies will come to work with people nowadays. There's a lot of dog-friendly offices out there. So if you are prepared and you've dealt with the noise and whatnot, that might be a great option for you. But there's got to be something. You can't just expect the puppy to be able to hold it for that 8 hours. They're just not capable at that young age. At 8 weeks old, it's too long.
Right. I think that's why we've seen so many dog daycares spring up, because with the change now of nobody being home.
Yeah.
Dog daycares we've talked about before. There are good dog daycares and there are mediocre dog daycares, and then there's really bad dog daycares. A baby puppy does not belong in a dog daycare. No,
definitely
not the place.
If I did need to utilize a dog daycare with a baby puppy, I would be very careful about who I chose, and I would be very specific. I do not want this dog out playing with this puppy out playing with all the other dogs all day long. It is not good for a puppy's joints. It is not good for their rest habits. It's not good for their stimulation levels.
Right, yes.
It's not good for your relationship because they're getting all their needs met elsewhere. I would be very specific. Please keep this puppy crated, feed him his lunch, let him out for a pee, maybe have a little individual play with him, and then leave him back in the crate, and I'll be here to pick him up at such and such a time. So if I did need to utilize that for a couple of months, I would be very specific about what I wanted done with the puppy. So we should actually do another episode on doggy daycares.
Right, yes.
There's a lot to unpack there for sure, but we'll stay out of there for now. But another expense too. If something else to consider, you've got to consider, all those first pieces of equipment, the crate. You've got to consider the food. You've got to consider
and
the
dog
travel
food
expenses potentially.
Dog food can be expensive too. I know
can be.
Honda's on a special diet for pancreatitis, and it. Luckily, he's a little dog and not a Great Dane, because I think I'd have to get a second mortgage.
A Great Dane. I thought he was great pure actually with his fuzzy coat.
His fuzzy coat. No, he doesn't eat very much. He eats a cup a day. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's his food costs me quite a bit. Yeah. So, go to the pet store, think about what brand you want to feed and see what it's going to cost you.
Yeah. I feed a good high quality kibble right now. I've bounced back and forth between raw and kibble my whole life, but right now I'm feeding kibble, and I can't remember what I was going to say. You pointed
because I pointed at you. I just thought of the biggest expense. If you buy a big dog, you're going to have a bigger vehicle to put the crate in.
Yeah. I do know what I was going to say now. I was going to say, like, Levon right now, as he's still growing, he is eating between 4 and 5 cups a day.
That's a lot.
So, it's a lot of food to go through. It goes through. I go to the store and I get 2 bags now when I go and get it, because there's no point in just getting one, because with the 2 dogs, I mean, Ned eats just under 2 cups a day as a full-grown adult male, but now that he's neutered, he's eating a little bit less. But Levon's eating it. He eats a lot.
Right.
A lot. He's still growing.
Yep.
Still growing.
Yep.
He's just a little squirt still, but he's still
Puppies
growing.
are very happy to spend our money. And
Yeah,
it's
they are.
weird because I go to the vet clinic with Honda and I remind Honda to bring his wallet. We get
He
to the
always
vet
forgets it.
I get to the vet clinic and I ask
Honda.
him every time, okay, Honda, get out your wallet. And he just stands there
Oh my gosh.
every time.
No, the cat's out of the bag, Honda.
Every
Cat
time
is
he
out of the
forgets his
bag.
wallet. So
He looks really concerned.
I always tell the receptionist, I go, well, I guess it's on me again.
Yeah. You got any dishes I can wash? Yeah. Food, all of the equipment, even leashes and collars these days. Like you're probably not getting a good leash and collar for less than $50.
Right, yeah.
You can probably buy some pretty cheap ones, but they're going to burn your hands. They're going to come apart on the puppy. Like you really do want good quality equipment.
Yes.
And that stuff costs money. All of our life expenses have gone up. And then, of course, we want to have fun with the puppies too. So we want to buy them toys and have some entertainment for them, maybe some chews, things like that.
And if you've bought a breed that needs professional grooming, like many of the doodle breeds are, the poodle mixes, call a groomer beforehand to find out what it's going to cost you every couple of months. It's probably upwards of about $100, probably more.
Yeah.
Every couple of months to have a dog groomed.
Yeah. Let's talk about grooming for a bit because there's grooming equipment that needs to be bought. That can be part of the expense. Just taking the time to make sure that you continually do groom your dogs. I know a lot of the groomers that I know are constantly flustered and frustrated with some of the doodle breeds and people's lack of general maintenance with them, creating a coat that is basically one big knot.
Yes.
So be prepared. Time to spend, grooming your dog. If you do it on a regular basis, it's much easier to keep on top of. Some dogs will need weekly grooming, but with some of the doodle coats, you want to run a brush through their coat daily to try to make sure they don't get those big mats.
And it's more even of just running the brush over the coat. You have to open up the coat, see the skin, and brush away from the skin. When you mix two breeds, you're mixing two coat types. And if you get say you have a Labradoodle, you get a little bit of the short lab hairs mixed with the long poodle hair.
Yeah.
Now that short lab hair is intertwining and matting right at the skin and creating a pelt on the dog.
Yep.
So when you just brush the top coat, you're not brushing right from the skin. So you need to open up the fur, see the line of skin, brush, brush, brush. Open up the next line of fur, brush, brush, brush.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to take time. You might need to brush teeth if you don't have a big chewer. You're going to need to trim toenails. I do toenails once a week. Not on me, but on my dogs once a week.
There's been complaints about you, Shannon, on your toenails.
I use mine as a weapon. I keep them so I can use them as a weapon.
Yeah. You know what else puppies do? They dig up your lawn.
They do.
They dig up your flowers. Yeah. They come in the house with muddy feet. And especially if you have a doodle type breed with their little hairy feet.
Oh, yeah.
You won't believe how much mud can come in on dog feet.
It just like sucks right up in there.
Yes.
Right? It's almost like you've got like a squeeze toy that you squeeze and then suck up the dirt and the water, and then you distribute it from your feet.
And I'm always surprised too, at my back entranceway, I'll get mud on the walls too, because the dogs come in and they give a shake or they run past and the mud that's on them flies onto the walls.
I actually teach my dogs to shake on command.
Right.
It's something that I use practically for field work, but it is also so helpful for this exact thing.
Right.
Like yesterday, I took the dogs for several walks because, I'm back to feeling great and love walking my dogs.
Oh, and it's so mushy and gross out here right now.
So, they both came back dripping wet. I had my raincoat on, and they both came back quite wet looking.
Yeah,
a little bit mucky, but not super mucky because we got a good layer of snow. But I have them shake out on the deck before I let them in the house because at least then it contains it outside and I don't have all those splatters all over the wall. Because they look pretty gross.
They do. Yes.
But pups will dig. Will dig.
Yeah.
We
so
want to
if you have a garden and you're a fastidious gardener, you can't just let a pup out by itself because it will dig a hole.
Yeah, and I would say for probably a good 4 or 5 months, you're going to want to supervise your dog when they're outside in the yard when you're letting them go to the bathroom, And past that, I would also just make sure that you are paying attention, because as they grow and as their habits change, they're going to try different things. You know, just like Reggie tried eating the pillow at 4 years old, randomly out of the blue. Your puppy might be wandering around the yard and they might smell something interesting in the ground, and then they might start fussing with it with their paw, and that might become digging. You know, until you know what your puppy's tendencies are, they really don't need to dig. You don't need to create a dig spot for them. You know, meet their needs in other ways. I'm not a big fan of teaching puppies to dig or teaching dogs to dig by giving them a specific space to dig. I don't think it's a necessity. Right. My dogs have wonderful lives where they get to explore the world, where they get to tug and play with me, where we do all sorts of training and all sorts of different sports, and they are very fulfilled.
Right, yes.
And they don't need to be wandering around the yard digging holes. So
puppies are also very gross.
Yeah.
They will eat rabbit poo.
Oh, yeah.
They will pick up a dead frog and carry it in their mouths. Yep. They'll roll on a worm. Yeah. They'll roll in something dead. Like, puppies are gross.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
and so are adult dogs. They can carry those habits.
Absolutely. After I moved out to my acreage, I had to start using NexGard Spectra because I wanted the dewormers in there, because they like to find bunny poo and eat it. They like to find other poos and eat them. And, you know, like, I've got 12 acres of bush and wetland, so I can't always see what they're up to.
You can't monitor all that poo.
Expense, right? Yeah. There's another expense.
Have you ever thought about putting up signs? Asking the animals, no pooing on this property.
No, you know what? I need to put up a sign that says "poo spot" right here, and then all the animals can go to that poo spot.
Yes, yeah.
That reminds me of that highway thing. I think I talked about a couple episodes ago, where the meme or the picture of the Animal Crossing sign.
Oh, right, yes,
and somebody was like, "That's awful. Why would they put the Animal Crossing there, right in the highway?"
Right, yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. Yes. Wow, what's our world coming to?
I remember one time. Iggy was a puppy, not a baby puppy, but an older puppy, old enough that I had let her out in the yard by herself with another dog. And I guess my dad was watching them out the window. And then we brought them in, and then Iggy was young enough that, you know, I was playing with her and she was jumping all over and licking my face, and we were having a great old time. And then my dad comes in and he goes, I was watching them out the window and they were playing with something. He goes, Iggy had something in her mouth and it was a dead crow.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh, my face.
Oh.
So he goes, I threw it in the garbage. He goes, but
that'll teach you to eat crow.
Right. But Iggy and the other dog, Cody, had been running around and playing and tearing up a dead crow that had fallen in the yard. And I guess it was pretty gross.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. But my dad saw them but didn't know what it was. He went out to investigate. The dogs ran in. I let Iggy lick my face. My dad came in and said, yeah, they ripped up a crow. Like,
ew. Oh, those moments. At least it wasn't like, oh, they were eating diarrhea out of a baby diaper or something.
Right. Oh,
gosh, that would have been even worse. So on that note, I actually teach my dogs a game, and Levon's very good at this already at 11 months old. I teach them, bring it here, let me see.
Right.
So when they have the benign things that don't matter, you know, when they pick up the leaf, I go, oh, what have you got? Bring that here. Let me see it.
Right.
Sometimes I take it. And in the early days, oftentimes I take it and give them a cookie and then give them the thing back. Right. Now, like, once they get the gist of it and they're happy to come to me with whatever the thing is, I will just take the thing and look at it and make a big deal out of it. Yeah. Like, if my partner's with me when we're out walking or whatever, I make a big deal out of it with him too. I'm like, look at this leaf. Isn't this the best leaf you've ever seen? And he's like, wow, that's a great leaf. And then we give it back to the dogs. Right. And the dog goes, cool. Yeah. Like, this is a great ritual. It's a great thing. And then when they pick up the things that they shouldn't, that are dangerous, I have practiced this idea. Right. Bring it here, let me see. And when they pick up the dead animal bones, which they do, when they pick up the, you know,
or the mouse and they have the tail hanging out of their mouths.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
bring it here, let me see. And then I take the thing and, oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
And, you know, as I maybe, you know, right now with the snow, I do a lot of rewards with snow.
Right, yeah.
So I'll just pick up a snowball and, yay, you're such a good dog. And I'll throw the snowball and both dogs go tearing after the snowball. And then, boop, I throw the thing in the bush and off we go. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that.
Right.
But it's so nice to be able to rely on the idea that they're not thinking, I need to wolf this down. I need to hoard this thing. Like, they just become comfortable with the idea of sharing with me.
Yes.
And it's not a big deal. And they've gotten value out of it because they've gotten rewards out of it. So.
Right.
All right. There's one more thing puppies do.
What is it?
They grow up.
Ah!
They grow up. But
They
this
do.
is important because
Yes.
if you have a 10, 15 pound, maybe 20 pound fuzzy St. Bernard puppy, that is a very different dog from the adult St. Bernard
Right,
puppy.
yes.
Right?
You're never buying the puppy. You're buying the adult dog.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
puppies for such a short period of time. So pick a dog that you love the adult tendencies
Yes.
of. You know, puppies are all cute. We can't just go by cute. There's very few ugly puppies. I mean, have you ever seen an ugly puppy?
No. There's a breed called a duck toller. They're pretty gross as puppies.
Aren't they horrible?
No, just
Levon is the cutest.
No, he's
oh my
cutest.
gosh,
Yes.
the cutest,
Cutest,
pup.
yes.
But yeah, all the others.
Right,
No,
right.
I'm just kidding.
Puppies, and it's a good thing they're
Yeah.
cute too because of all the
Yeah.
stuff we talked about. Imagine if it was
Absolutely.
this little horrendous beast, you'd be like,
Yeah, why did I do this? They're
Right.
not even appealing in
Yeah.
any way. And then if they weren't sweet by nature, if they
Right.
weren't loyal by nature, if they
Yes.
weren't like all the things we love in our
Right.
dogs by nature, oh my goodness. Yeah, they'd be extinct pretty
Right,
quickly.
yes.
Because who would want that? It'd be
Exactly.
like living with an alligator
Right.
or something like that.
Yes,
Or
yeah.
a dinosaur maybe.
right.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, they grow up. You need to make sure that you are prepared for that. So you
Yes.
joked about buying a bigger vehicle with a Great Dane.
Right.
But it's no joke.
Right, yeah.
Like truly. And in order to transport that dog safely, like if you think about the impact, if that dog is loose in the car and you have to hit the brakes, like it's like having the deer. Oh, hello,
Oh,
Honda.
Honda's got something to say.
Yeah, he does. It's like having the deer in the car with you.
Right, yes.
Like this is not something to take casually. This is not a situation to let the dog hang their head out the window and be loose.
Right.
You need to be able to safely transport
Right.
this dog for your sake and for theirs, you know? So think about things like that too.
Right.
The adult dog needs to fit your lifestyle and you need to be able to safely care for that dog. So, you know, maybe that means calling a Blue Line or an Uber that has a big vehicle when you need to take them to the
Right.
vet and they don't spend a lot of time in the car otherwise, but think about what your lifestyle is, right? If you're
yes.
cottagers and your dog comes with you, if you're like us and your dogs travel with you to work every day, they need to be safe in that vehicle.
Yes.
So, and you need to be safe too.
Right,
So,
yes, definitely.
yeah.
Yes.
All those things.
And if you've listened to our podcast today and think, oh, puppy's an awful lot of work, then consider an adult dog.
Yeah.
Yes, like there's all kinds of breeders who have adult dogs that for some reason or other, you know, not the dog's fault, need to find a new home.
Yep.
So you can skip all the puppy stuff and get an adult dog. And
Yeah.
of course, there's going to be always a learning curve. But, you know, chances are your adult dog can already hold his bladder overnight. Chances
Yes.
are he's not going to wake up screaming early at 5 a.m. So, you know, you might think, you know what, I really don't want a puppy right now. It's not the perfect time in my life, but, you know, look for an adult.
Absolutely.
It's a great compromise.
Yep, absolutely. Or maybe consider a different animal. You know, maybe
Right,
maybe there's a time for the dog later on in your life if you're short on time, short on money, short on all of the
Right.
patience that you need to deal with all of the things.
Yeah. Maybe a cat.
Cats are a lot easier.
Yep.
You know, hamsters are a lot easier.
Or a guinea pig or a bunny. You know,
Absolutely.
a ferret can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you do go with the dog, just be prepared for a wonderful adventure.
Right.
Because if you can live with all those negatives, if you can be a realist and face the negatives and be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to turn these negatives into positives. You'll find no better
Yes.
creature to spend your time with.
Yes. You're bringing in an animal that's a blank slate.
Yeah.
And they're going to do animal things.
Yeah.
It's up to us to teach them that they can do their animal things, but they have to modify it into a way that's acceptable for us.
Perfect way to end it. On that note, I'm Instructor Shannon.
Instructor Swanee.
Happy training.
The McCann Dogs podcast is brought to you by McCann Professional Dog Trainers. We help dog owners to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. Please give us a call at 905-659-1888 or visit us at mccanndogs.com. Happy training!